Hey guys, so this video is about an internet message board post that I'm linking to in the sidebar. It's from a Christian website called Rapture Ready that indeed broadcasts news of the impending rapture. I'll save my commentary of that for a later date to go ahead and focus on the post at hand. The post is entitled, "You Might Be an Atheist Fundamentalist If... and it contains a very long list of statements. Many of these represent what I can only describe as a grossly misinformed perception of atheism. Some are laughable, some are just plain ignorant, and many are a conglomeration of all three. However, I do think that a few of them are valid critiques of some atheists, and I'll get to that at the end. I don't have much time tonight, but I'll go through a few from each of the aforementioned categories, starting with those that I think embody a misinformed perception of atheism. First one. You complain when Christians appeal to their emotions when justifying their belief in God, yet you feel justified on appealing to your emotions for lack of belief in God. And you declare in a public forum that you are furious at God for not existing." End quote. My lack of belief in God isn't for emotional reasons. I don't know about you at all, but I think it's a fairly safe assumption that the majority of atheists do not cite anger, fear, a desire to rebel against authority, or any other emotion as their primary reason for rejecting the notion of a God or gods. However, as the first statement astutely points out, a large fraction of Christians hold onto their beliefs for emotional reasons, the most common probably being fear of some variety. And here are some entries that I found funny from that list. Quote, "Going with the definition of without belief in a God, you insist that all people are born atheists and that dogs, cats, rocks, and trees are as well. You make statements like, 'My dog is an atheist. Ask him about his lack of belief.' The writer's tone is very tongue-in-cheek, but it's true. When's the last time you asked a tree about its religious beliefs?" Quote, "You believe that extra drippy ice cream is illogical proof against the existence of God, because an omniscient God would know how to stop the ice cream from being extra drippy. An omnipotent God would have the ability to stop the ice cream from being extra drippy, and by golly, an omnibenevolent God wouldn't want your ice cream to be extra drippy." End quote. Wow, what a great argument. I'm totally going to use that the next time I debate a Christian. Pwn! And finally, here's some that I find just plain ignorant. Quote, "You insist that science is completely partial to all ideas, is not dogmatic, and researches all possibilities, except creationism and/or intelligent design." End quote. I think the word they were looking for was impartial, meaning unbiased, rather than partial, which means biased in favor of one thing over the other. Quote, "You claim antibiotic-resistant bacteria as proof protozoa evolved into a person." End quote. As someone who's worked with and made antibiotic-resistant bacterial strains in the laboratory for several years, I respond to this statement with a resounding WTF ? And finally, I mentioned before that a few of the statements presented in this topic I consider to be valid critiques of some atheists. Here's a few of those. Quote, "You became an atheist when you were 10 years old, based on ideas of God that you learned in Sunday school. Your ideas about God haven't changed since." End quote. And, quote, "You're a spoiled 15-year-old boy who lives in the suburbs, and you go into a chat room to declare that I know there's no God because no loving God would allow anyone to suffer as much as I. Hold on, my cell phone's ringing." End quote. And, quote, "Although you've memorized half a dozen proofs that he doesn't exist, you still think you're God's greatest gift to the ignorant masses." End quote. And, quote, "You demand that Christians study advanced evolutionary biology before making claims about natural selection. You then claim that their theological ideas, which you have never examined before, are pure nonsense." End quote. At the center of each of these statements is the idea that atheists may not hold ideas that are very well thought out. To any young atheist or newly deconverted atheist watching this video, I'm not trying to insult you or your experiences in any way, but as a young atheist myself, I recognize that as people mature and experience different things throughout their lives, the reasons for their beliefs or lack thereof will hopefully become more finely tuned, more cogent, and on deeper and more sophisticated planes of thought. I know I have a lot of growing to do myself. The day you declare yourself an atheist or agnostic should not be the end of your thinking process. If you were raised in a home with no religious belief, or you decided when you were 10 years old that you didn't believe in God, that's fine, but hopefully in between then and now you've explored the subject more thoroughly, which means exploring the points of view of others. Don't just dismiss every religion on grounds of, I don't believe in God or gods, therefore religion's A through Z equal pure superstitious bullshit. If you're open-minded, you shouldn't be afraid of reading sacred texts or apologist arguments for any given religion, or even visiting websites or online message boards where people discuss their beliefs. You might find some bits of wisdom in Jesus' sermons, in the teachings of Buddha, or in the texts of Hinduism. If nothing else, you can discuss your non-belief with folks of those religions without sounding like you have absolutely no idea what they believe. If you go charging into any debate, religious or otherwise, without having a firm understanding of the logic behind your arguments and the logic behind your opponent's arguments, you will indeed come across as ignorant, laughable, misinformed, and foolish. If the debate is on religion, you'll probably sound as silly to the theists as some notorious religious callers do on the Atheist Experience, like that guy who wonders why we don't die when the sun goes down, Eve who thinks we're atheists because we want to sin, and the guy who thinks all atheists are from Russia and are communists. I bet somewhere there's a Christian call-in TV show that takes calls from atheists and puts clips of those online so that we can all laugh at the foolish atheist. Seriously, let's keep growing and learning so as not to feed the fire and contribute to the already skewed views that some religious people have of us. That's all for now. This will probably be my last video for a while. I'd love to hear your comments, especially if you're a religious person. I didn't get to cover many of the statements from that message board post, so feel free to start a discussion in the comment section or in a video response if you like about any of those statements that you find interesting.